Can you tell me a little bit about competitive selling? What's the competitive sales system?
Okay. Well, I think there are two kinds of competition. And one of them is the oldest one of all. You're always trying to improve upon your own past behavior. And this is critical in sales because sales has an element to the job that no other job has. Every year, the sales goals go up, and often the challenges increase, and sometimes the competition makes it harder and harder and harder to make more sales. So you have to make more and more sales, and it's harder and harder. No other job gets this. They don't go to the accounting department and tell them they need a 10% improvement. They don't say to the receptionist, you need to be 8% friendlier next year. But salespeople are always doing that. And so when I ask salespeople, how are you going to get better next year than this year? And I've literally trained 50,000 salespeople. So I've literally had an opportunity in more than 5,000 workshops to ask that question. How are you going to do better? Everybody's got to do better. How are you going to do better? And everybody gives me the same answers, but the answers don't really, they sound right. They go, well, I'll work harder, work smarter, be more productive. Well, probably you're working as hard as you can. And the goal is, what are you going to do? If you're working 10 hours a day, work 20 hours a day, that's ridiculous. Work smarter is my favorite answer, because if your whole plan is that next year you can be smarter than this year, you're in sales 10 years. How do you get smarter? What do you go to the smart machine and be more productive? We're already as productive as we can be. And if productivity tools is the answer, we're up to our eyeballs in the productivity tools. So I don't think that's the answer at all. So I think you always have to be better. And the way you get better is you improve these three things: word choice, time management, and what you measure, specifically your pipeline. So if you measure, you improve your word choice, your time management, and your what you measure, your pipeline. In that way, and only in that way, could you improve upon yourself. But here's the other part: the customer is seeing more salespeople than ever. Whatever you sell, whatever marketplace you're in, whatever product category you're in, you're not only selling against legacy competitors, peer competitors, the same competitors you always had, but you now have somebody from another country emailing in or in-mailing in. So you're up against, and the customer is hearing from more salespeople. They're actually spending less and less of their time talking to salespeople. We'll talk about that later. But they compare. It's not fair. They call it the halo effect. It's a psychological thing. The customer meets with you and then thinks about you and then thinks about all the other similar salespeople. And now they're comparing you, not just to, what you said, to the 30 other people they talk to. So we have to be better than ourselves, and we have to be better than the competitors who also want our customers and our prospects' budget and attention.
Got it. Okay. So, one of the things I was most impressed with when I first met you and we started working together, I think you remember I had already had about 29 to 30 years of experience in sales and sales management. But what I really liked best was everything was real world. So many books that I'm sure you've read and I've read and seminars I've attended. It's like, well, that all sounds great, but how do you really do it in the real world? It's like, I love the thought of the challenger sale, and I know we both consider ourselves challengers, but how do you really implement that in an organization in a reasonable amount of time frame without spending a gazillion dollars? I don't see how you do it. And I really like that everything I've ever heard from you is like, oh, I think I can actually do that. I may not be able to do it as well as Steve, but I can do it. I love that real world thing. And you just brought up a subject that I didn't plan on asking you about today, but I think it's crucial. I like to go around the room when I first start talking to an audience and, let them introduce themselves to me. And I'm 99.9% sure I got this from you. I ask them what their biggest challenge is right now. And 50% of every room says time management. The other 50% just didn't think of it because it's their challenge too. Can you give any good tips about time management? Because it's crucial.
Sure. First of all, time is the only resource we have. And the single biggest reason that people don't accomplish their goals on a high level is time management. However, the words time management are so often used that I think the meaning has become lost. What many people think of as time management, they have confused. They've confused it with time monitoring, meaning that they're aware of how long things last. And so they think of it that way. So they think, well, the faster I do anything, the better I'm managing my time. The more things I do in a day, the better I'm managing my time. That's just not the case. Here's the thing with sales. There's always more to do than time. You have about, well, before the pandemic, I would have told you, you have about 200 work days, about 2,000 work hours. For some of us, we're at home all the time. There's nothing else to do but work. And, you saved all that commuting time. So, in theory, you're working. I think you should also be taking breaks. So, even if you started at 6 o'clock in the morning, I think you should take an hour-long break, at 8 or 9 or 10 or something like that. And, but whatever, you get about 2,000 work. And so you don't have an infinite amount of time for all the things you could think. There's always more things you could do, you should do, than you have time. So the answer isn't, time management isn't about how do you shoehorn every single thing into your day. No. As you add new things in, you got to take some things out. So the governing principle should be this. A couple of governing principles. One, align your time with your goals. Here's an example of something you and I did together. We wrote a book together by carving out time every week, or sometimes more than once a week, but certainly every week, to work on our book. Now, how many people do we know that have a book in their mind? They go, "Oh, I want to write a book." Great. And I'll ask them, "That's great. Did you write it yet?" No. Did you write the draft yet? No. Did you spend any time at all this week, this month, this year on this book that you want to write? No. Well, if you don't put any time against it, you're never going to get there. So you got to align your time with your goal. I literally look at your calendar. Look at think about what's the most important goals, what are the most important professionally and personal things to you, and look at your calendar to see, did you spend any time on that? Second, you go, well, I don't put everything into my calendar. That's the second mistake. If you want to get to something, you put it in your calendar. You know what I don't want to do? I don't want to have a dentist drill a hole in my tooth. But you know what I do want to do? Get together with my friends. I don't schedule the friends, but I do schedule the dentist. The dentist is going to happen. We all know that. Schedule everything you want to get to. Not only schedule, but think about when you're putting it in, because each of us are better at doing different things at different times of the day, reading in the morning or writing in the afternoon. It's all personal. You got to know yourself. But also, because there's not enough time and there's a tendency to spend too much time on the wrong kinds of things, always allocate the right number of minutes to every task you do. So if you're going to do something, don't even start it until you decide how many minutes you're going to work on it. I'm only talking about professional things. It's not personal things. You like doing something and it's fun and it's the weekend, fine, have at it. But if you're doing something like in sales, there's 27 things we got to do every day, but not everything is equally important. Now, what becomes important? I'll tell you the best way to determine what's important. Think about a year from now. I call this the power of negative thinking. A lot of people talk about the power of positive thinking. No doubt, very good. But nothing beats the power of negative. Here's what I mean. You have a goal to do something. You miss the goal. At the end of it, you think about it. For example, I'll give you a bunch of examples. You go on a sales meeting. After the meeting, an hour later, you're thinking about it, and you go, "Oh, you know what I should have said." You had a goal to lose weight or get in shape or learn a language or learn a new skill. And you gave yourself a certain amount of time to get there. And now it's a week later. Guy missed. In sales, you had a goal to hit a certain number for the year. And now it's January 5th of the next year. And you're looking back on the previous year. And as soon as you look back, you say to yourself, "You know what I should have done?" We are at our best, our most genius, our most insightful when we come up with, "You know what I should have done." Unfortunately, we usually come up with it when it's too late. So what I do is I imagine the future. I say to myself, a year from now, what will I be disappointed in if I don't get to it? What will be the thing that a year and a week later, I'll say, "You know what I should have done," but try to think of it now while there's still time to do it. So with that in mind, I want to build into every week a calendar appointment with myself to get to that long-term thing. And I'll give you an example. I'm working on a project right now called the Training Co-op, where I'm going to bring to the marketplace training, online training from myself and a select group of other people, including you, Jeff. And I've got a whole scheme of how I want to do it. It's a long-term plan. It's got a lot of pieces. And right now, I really have to focus on short-term cash, closing the next deal. But I know that if I don't spend some time every week working on my long-term plans, I'll never get to them.